It's not an exaggeration to say that water is essential for all life on this planet. We're going to take a look at what that means here in the province of Ontario. So let's welcome Linda de Bossiguet, the former and soon-to-be reinstated chief of the Chaging First Nation, now an advisor to the Grand Council Chief of the Anishinaabe Nation. Gail Kranzberg, professor and director of the Engineering and Public Policy program at McMaster University in Hamilton. Frank Seglenieks, water resources engineer at Environment and Climate Change Canada. And Larry Swatok, author of A Glass Half Full, Water in Southern Africa. He's a professor at the University of Waterloo's Water Institute, and it's a delight to welcome the two women back to our program and the two gentlemen for the first time ever to our program. Nice to have everybody here. We thought just to set the table for the discussion to come, we would ask our producer, Patricia Kozichka, to do a little background pack for us. So watch this, and 2 minutes later we'll come back and chat. Sheldon, go.
Imagine living in a place without water. That scenario has been looming over the coastal city of Cape Town, South Africa. The city of 4 million went from having one of its wettest years in decades in 2013, when dams were overflowing, to a 3-year drought that's left water reservoirs dangerously low. The largest dam, responsible for serving half the population, has dropped to just over 10% capacity, forcing residents to line up for water. Severe droughts in recent years have also ravaged other coastal regions, such as Southern California and parts of Australia. Experts predict it's only going to get worse. In 2014, a team from McGill joined international researchers in examining the water situation in the world's 500 largest cities. They found a quarter of them to be water stressed. The top 5 cities considered most at risk for running out of water were Tokyo, Delhi, Mexico City, Shanghai, and Beijing. Toronto and Montreal, the only 2 Canadian cities studied, were not considered to be at risk at the time. Canada is home to 1/5 of the world's freshwater, but that doesn't mean we're immune to water issues. For decades, many Indigenous communities have struggled with a complete lack of clean water. As of March 19th, there are 81 long-term water advisories in effect, the majority of them in Ontario. Meanwhile, across the rest of the country, water use soars. Our water consumption is second only to the US and more than double the usage in Europe. Canadians use an average of 329 liters of water per person per day. More than a third of that water goes right down our shower drain. To put that in perspective, back in Cape Town, residents have been urged to limit their water usage to just 50 liters a day. That's the equivalent for them of a single toilet flush, a minute shower, a load of laundry, and 8 liters to be divvied up between hand washing, cooking, and cleaning. It's a far cry from Canadians' water habits, but far more in line with how some experts believe we should all be treating water, a resource they remind us we must each do our part to maintain, because it is, after all, finite.
Okay, Patricia, thank you for that. Well, some pretty stark things to follow up on there, so Gail, let's get started here. How concerned should we be about us literally running out of water?
In the Great Lakes region?
Yeah.
So fortunately, I don't think that's a huge concern for us. If we're careful about how we maintain the water quantity in the basin. We have treaties, we have laws, we have regulations that prohibit diversions of water away from the Great Lakes unless they're put back into the Great Lakes. So the notion of us sending all of our water down to the Southwest United States to fulfill their needs, and then somehow they can pump it all back up to us, it just doesn't seem practical or plausible. And the other thing that I would say is that the governors, the premiers, there's a very strong, passionate commitment to maintaining the waters of the Great Lakes in the Great Lakes because it is the economic engine of the region. It's the economic engine because of its abundance, and distribution of that water outside of the basin destroys that. So I don't think with the changing climate that we'll see droughts in the Great Lakes region from a water quantity point of view. But it's really the political pressures on taking water away from the Great Lakes, which I think we've got great political leadership that would stop that from happening.
If we go, however, from the Great Lakes to the part of the world that you have spent time exploring, different story?
Same story, different setting. Let's put it that way.
Tell us.
When you asked a question about possibilities of running out of water, I think you have to ask what is the water for? So, cities face particular kinds of struggles, and Toronto and Cape Town have shared issues. Maybe we'll talk a bit more about Toronto later on. Cape Town's big problems, of course, are related to the fact that they have a dry summer. And so when they need water most, that water is not available. It rains only for a few months in the wintertime. But on the other hand, we use most of our water in agriculture, and big ag takes a lot of water away from other possible uses. So, depending on what we decide to grow outside of the Cape Town city, I know you like $8 bottle of wine from South Africa, as do I. Maybe we drank some Cape Town and Southern African water last night with dinner. So, where the water goes and flows is a kind of a complicated question. And I think we overwhelmingly focus on drinking water for cities at our peril. I think we need to look at it as an integrated system.
One minor correction. This kid, Niagara Peninsula and Prince Edward County wine, period.
Suma, right?
There we go. I want to ask you about this, Linda, because you're in a fascinating predicament here. Your reserve is right on Lake Huron, which is absolutely abundant in terms of water. But have you got a boil water advisory on your reserve?
Not in our community.
Luckily.
Luckily.
Except most of the ones in Canada are in the province of Ontario.
Yes, definitely.
Isn't that a conundrum?
It is. And it's something that's going to be on the rise. And I say that because the federal policy that governs First Nation water treatment plants does not assist First Nations with having sustainable infrastructure to provide clean, safe drinking water to communities. As well, water sources for different First Nations communities are contaminated or on the verge of becoming contaminated with increased pharmaceuticals and products that cannot be cleaned out of wastewater discharge. Georgina Island, for instance, is a First Nation in Lake Simcoe.
An hour from here.
An hour from here, and they're on the verge of having 40 million liters of wastewater dumped into their backyard. And that's discharged from the Upper York area, Newmarket, Aurora, because the populations of those communities are increasing.
So when you ask the question, are we on the verge of running out of water around here, apropos of Larry's point, depends on what you want to use it for. If you want to drink it,
You can't.
you can't.
You can't drink it.
So we may be there in terms of some First Nations places in this province already.
Definitely, and there are some First Nations communities whose wells have dried up within their aquifers, and other First Nations communities who are surrounded by some of the richest aquifers, and industry is utilizing the clean water from those aquifers to wash aggregate.
Frank, why do we heard Patricia say this in the background piece, we seem to be hogs when it comes to the use of water in Canada and the United States compared to the rest of the world? How come?
I think a lot of it is just because we have such an abundance. As you said, we have this great resource of fresh water right beside us. So I think part of it, we just don't think about it in the terms of we're going to have a water scarcity. We think, well, it's always going to be there. And, we have to look at the pricing of water and how we want, and how incentives we have not to use as much of it. But of course, so we have to think that although we have this great resource of water very close to us, it doesn't give us a license to use more. In that each liter of water that we take out of the Great Lakes and actually treat for human consumption costs a certain amount of resources and money. And of course, once you have to treat it, it also costs water resources and money. So it's always a balance between how much you have all this water, but you want to be able to conserve it even though you have this abundance.
And yet, how do you explain the fact that one of the big and great cities of this world, Cape Town, South Africa, suddenly finds itself from time to time without adequate supplies of water?
Well, certainly, their reservoir, when you talk about reservoirs and just the amount of water, when you had in that piece that it's down to maybe 15, 20% of its reservoir, that's a great diminishing of that reservoir. Where we look at the Great Lakes, even when we had very low lake levels about 1998 to 2013, and I remember a show on the agenda about what was happening with the Great Lakes low water levels a few years ago, we're only talking maybe 1% of the actual water in the reservoir. So we have this large capacity, whereas Cape Town relies on this one reservoir, or a few reservoirs, but this one principal one, and a lot of it needs that rain to recharge every year. And you get a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, where you don't get that recharge, you're still using the same amount because you're still adding to your city and you need that much water, then you're going to have problems.
You know, Larry, what people refer to when they talk about day zero?
Oh, yes. Day zero is actually, well, it was quite a motivating issue around trying to get citizens of different economic, social stripes to pull together to make sure that they didn't run out of water. So day zero was the hypothesized day when the taps would be shut off in the city of Cape Town. When it was first announced in January, I think it was in January, it was going to be April 22nd. Then it was pushed back to June, and then it's been pushed back to August, and now it's been actually taken off of the books because the city feels that it's bad for business. And I think that's
Sorry, they don't want to bring attention to the fact that they've got a water shortage problem?
Like this is, I find this to be actually shocking, but also indicative of how we everywhere in modernized Western societies, we on the one side we preach conservation, on the other side we pursue business as usual, which is a water hog by definition. And so in the context of day zero, yes, there has been some rain. Yes, people have come together and with effective demand management activities and cut their consumption by half. Yes, that's all very good, but it's still a crisis. And in their system, as we were saying earlier, it's a set of integrated surface dams, six dams. I mean, the Tuwaterskloof, the dominant dam, is down to 10%, but that's a misguided, that's a misnomer because that water's been pumped elsewhere where there's less evaporation. So overall, it's about 20%. Now, that could go down to 10%. You're going to send the wrong signals to people about the success of having achieved to push back day zero. I think day zero, if we're going to talk about water wars at some point, day zero was a very successful campaign that got citizens of all different political and social stripes to move in the same direction. We can't get people to move that way and that fast on climate. We can't get them to move that way and that fast when we talk about interstate wars. What's the difference? And so I think we abandoned day zeros at our peril, and I think there were some benefits to be had from that, the use of that term.
What went through your mind, Linda, when you started to see stories coming out of Cape Town about running out of water?
I wasn't surprised, and I really wasn't affected. And in saying that, it's my experience within Canada and our own First Nations water crisis that I looked at what's happening in South Africa is, this is happening in our own backyard. This is happening in our First Nation communities, and some for decades. And some of our communities are very close to, metropolitan centers, and they're still faced with a crisis. Grassy Narrows, their water has been contaminated with mercury for generations.
Yep.
That's not on the headline story of the National, and still there was awareness brought to it, but nothing has yet been done.
Well, the government of Ontario would say they've spent tens of millions of dollars now analyzing what the problem is in hopes of being able to clean it up.
Analysis has started in the 60s. It's delayed because they don't have any solutions, or they're not prepared to adequately resource what is needed to solve that problem.
Well, apropos of what you've said, Sheldon, so we bring this up right now, middle of page 3 here. So the budget in this fiscal year, 2018, provided for more than $172 million over 3 years to accelerate the pace of construction and renovation of affected water systems. If you go to last year's budget, there was an announcement for $4 billion over 10 years to build and improve infrastructure. And let's go back to 2016, $1.8 billion over 5 years to improve drinking water monitoring and testing on reserve. Chief Linda, how hopeful are you with what those numbers might portend?
you're looking at what appear to be large investments divided over 633 communities in Canada.
Over 10 years,
Over 10 years,
in some cases.
in some cases. To build a water treatment center or a water treatment facility costs millions of dollars in the pre-design stage, into construction stage, and then into the operations and maintenance stage. And that's where the failures exist time and time again, is in the operations and maintenance. At times the design, some of our First Nations water treatment plant designs are not designed to provincial standards. There are shortcuts taken in the construction of water treatment plants, such as the removal of necessary monitoring equipment, shortcuts taken to fit a budget given by Indian and Northern Affairs Canada. They have archaic policies that continue to perpetuate boil water advisories within our communities.
Gail, what's your view on what that money can do?
Well, I agree with Linda. I think when you look at the investment that they're putting into Great Lakes, for example, when you look at the number, and then you realize that that's divided over 5 years, for example, the initial thought is, well, good investment. Then you realize how much it has to go towards. So it just puzzles me. It just frustrates me because engineers can figure out how to treat water. There's no reason why there shouldn't be engineering solutions for First Nations for drinkable water. There's no engineering conundrum there. It's strictly a political piece. And, Chief Linda would know way more about that than I. But I think when we look at what we invest in the region, what we're investing in water and drinking water and in clean water, it is so much less than what the resource brings us back. So that's $1 trillion economy in the Great Lakes region, and our federal government's put in tens of millions. Come on, something's askew here. So this is, and I'm not trying to talk about, this is not about let's invest in tree huggers and planting trees is a nice thing to do. Let's invest in making sure that the resource is able to sustain the $1 trillion economy that it's worth. It is why when we look at the U.S. and Trump last year wanted to kill the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative, which is the $300 million a year, the governor in Congress said, no way. This is a very important investment in our economy, and they vetoed him. It's on the table again to be slashed, and I predict, and my colleagues in Chicago and other places predict, no way. The governors will say that's an important investment in the economy of the region. It's not just an environmental frivolous thing.
To your comment on the distribution of the Indian Affairs funding to communities in Canada, Ontario is not getting its fair share. As you saw from the clip, Ontario has the highest amount of boil water advisories in our First Nations communities, but we get the least amount of money. Other provinces get a larger cut out of the actual federal budget announcements than Ontario.
Why is that?
Politics.
Politics, indeed.
Politics. So and to your comment on, we need to take care of our landscapes in order to ensure the preservation of quality water. We have to take care of the wetlands, the forests, which filtrate the water when it returns back to our environment, to ensure that the quality of our water is sustained. So we need to really, what I see as the larger problems is our federal policies are not strong enough to assist with those solutions to ensure the sustainability for future generations.
Well, we've got somebody sitting beside you from Environment and Climate Change Canada, so I should ask you to comment on that.
About the
Inadequate standards, inadequate amount of money going to the issues we've been talking about, et cetera.
Unfortunately, that's a bit beyond my scope.
You're not a politician.
I'm not a politician, and that goes on to the policy. But just from a science point of view, which is more my thing, we of course, when we do our kind of predictions of what we see in the future, we do when we're thinking about designing these plants and more water treatment, we do have to consider what we see in the future and just the different ways we see that going to be more droughts, more flood, more different extremes. So we have to think about that kind of thing when we're designing these kind of.
What does that mean, Frank? What does that mean? Help me understand what that means.
Well, we see, I don't know if we're going to get into climate change eventually or if we're going to go right now into it. So,
Well, all right, take us there.
Take us there. Okay, well, of course, the water levels and water in the Great Lakes is a complex balance between precipitation, evaporation, runoff, and it goes into amount of ice cover that affects evaporation. So what we see in the future is that all these different elements kind of go up and down and up and down. But what we're seeing is that there isn't as a big general trend as in the lakes are all going to go 2 meters lower or 2 meters higher. But what we do see is that we see a lot of extremes. We see more of the extremes, more of the lower water levels, more of the higher water levels. And we've seen that just in the last few years where Lake Michigan Huron had its lowest water level a couple of years ago that we've ever seen in our 100-year history. And Lake Ontario just last summer had its highest water level just a couple of years later. So what we have to do is we really have to be adaptable, something called adaptive management that I think Gail is familiar with, to talk about, well, we have to be able to handle these low water levels and the high water levels. That's what we're really seeing from the climate change work, is that we got to be ready for these highs and lows, because that's what we're seeing in the future.
Go ahead, Gail.
No, you know, we have a binational Great Lakes Water Quality Agreement that for the first time has a climate change piece in it. It's called an annex. And one of the elements there is exactly what you just said. Unfortunately, while the agreement was being negotiated, the climate change adaptation group at Environment Canada was being fired.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, the annex says we need to improve our science, improve our understanding so that we can react to extreme events. And that's exactly what it is. As much as we talk about Paris, COP21, and mitigating climate change and carbon taxes and reductions in carbon emissions, the climate is changing and we need to adapt to that reality. What do we do in flooding events? How do we make them less severe? What do we do in times of drought? How do we make our intakes less susceptible to low water levels?
Are the decision makers seized of these questions yet, in your view?
I know that municipalities are really looking for answers to these things because they're on the front lines. They're the ones who operate these plants. They're the ones who provide the water to the people. And they've been asking for help in this. And I know that, so Environment Canada, Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, have under a Canada-Ontario agreement some priorities to understand this and to start moving forward to better understanding. So that's, the better understanding is great, the science is great. I would really like to see some pilot scale testing on adaptation strategies on the ground now so we can learn from them. Are they working? And if they're not working, then the adaptive management thing comes in, right? Learning by doing. Let's try something, and if it doesn't work, okay, we've learned something, and now we'll do something different. But I would like to see some on-the-ground activities so that we can mitigate massive floods or prolonged droughts.
As long as you've got the floor, can I ask you briefly to talk about plastics for a second?
Oh, sure.
The federal environment minister, I gather, wants to take on plastic waste when the G7 meets in June in Quebec. It's not imaginable that we're actually going to ban plastics because they end up polluting our waterways, right? That's not on.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Right. So what's the next thing we could do that's sort of, politics being the art of the possible, what's possible here?
So there's two things going on. One is microbeads, and then there's the microplastics. Microbeads are things that are put into consumer products to make our faces look really beautiful. And so they've been
Sounds like a worthwhile goal.
Well, yeah, but you can ground up almond shells and do the same thing, which is what we used to do. And so under the Canadian Environmental Protection Act, those microbeads are going to be banned. And so the industry, cosmetic industry, will respond, and those won't be in our wastewater anymore. But there's all sorts of other microplastic sources, and we have it's very much like the gyre in the middle of the ocean. We have measurable amounts of plastics, microplastics. We know they're getting into the small organisms which get eaten by fish, and that our fish could then very well be not only malnourished because the food they're eating is full of plastics, but that these plastics also have the capacity to absorb chemicals and release chemicals as they get into biota, which could mean that if we're eating fish from the Great Lakes that are contaminated with these microplastics, they could be polluted and we might be getting into them.
I need to go to Linda on this. You're right on Lake Huron.
Yes.
Is this a big issue for you?
Huge. We've talked, and the elders have talked about how we've sustained ourselves, and we're wild meat eaters. Fish is one of our main staples of food, and our people are getting sick. And we're getting warnings now to not consume the amount of fish we've consumed.
You have seen this?
Yeah, because of the toxins within the fish. The quality of fish has went down dramatically. I fish, so I see how sick the fish are when we harvest them. The quality of meat is bad. They're very wormy, and at times it makes some children sick.
Lake Huron whitefish is the best in the world. I mean, it's phenomenal, right? And you're seeing a decline already in the quality?
and there are reports of mercury contamination, but again, science tells us that this is okay, this amount is okay, but reality is it's not. And we need to stop saying things are okay just for money. And that's all it is. It's the politicians are influenced by industry to ensure that they're making money. So let's reduce some of our policies, and we'll say it's okay, so that we don't have to put in these larger restrictions.
I just have to be really clear here. You're talking about fish that are contaminated. The microplastics story, we don't know yet. We don't know if the fish that you're talking
Again,
about,
there needs to be more investments into these studies.
So we don't know yet what those microplastics are doing to fish, but it's a huge threat that we need to learn more about. So I don't want the viewers to think right now we have the answers, but we know that it is a very serious issue that we don't have a lot of information on.
Let me use, as your last answer, a segue to take us to where I think we need to go next, which is on the issue of private sector companies and what they ought to or ought not to be allowed to do as it relates to our water. Larry, how concerned are you about the amount of water being taken out of our Great Lakes for, Nestle, that kind of thing, bottled water purposes?
Yeah, I think that this is a good seg from what we've just said, because there's a big world water meeting going on in Brasilia right now. The latest World Water Development Report has just been released, and it's called Nature-Based Solutions for Water. And what I'm hearing in the conversation is, this continuing dichotomy between business and the environment, between economy, jobs, these things, and the environment, as if somehow the environment is outside of us, right? And so, one of the things I've been saying to my students is that the most important nature-based solution is to recognize that humans are part of nature and to put us back into the system. And so with drawing off water for a variety of things, it could be Nestle, it could be the Foxconn expansion around Lake Michigan. It's always a trade-off that is somehow, no matter what we say legally, somehow when someone dangles a job in front of you, environmental regulations are mutable. We can do whatever we want with them. And so somehow, I don't know what we do about that. One thing is we have to we have to integrate climate, environment into economic decision-making straight away. There's no substitute for regulation in government. I'm sorry to say that. I know it's not popular. Nobody ran on a tax and won, but it starts there, right? You have to force businesses to do environmental impact assessments, social impact assessments, and adhere to these things.
Okay, let me put that to Frank. Are you concerned? Do you know whether the government of Canada is concerned that private companies are taking too much water out of our Great Lakes for private purposes?
Certainly, we tried to regulate that and tried to look at that. And it's a solution also we have to think about. We can't just do one thing in Canada and have a different thing in the United States. So one thing, at least on the scientific part, we certainly work hand in hand with our American counterparts. We have basically, whatever my job is, there's a counterpart on the US side. So I believe that there's, as Gail talked about, this compact between the different governors and of the states and the provinces. So there are very strict regulations. There was the case up in Milwaukee where a city wanted to take water from the Great Lakes Basin, although they were slightly outside of the basin. There was a whole controversy above that. So
is this the Waukesha case?
It's the Waukesha, exactly. Okay. So, and although it was looking at the big picture, just a very small amount of water, it was all about the precedent that it might set, of course, because if you do that, well, now and a little bit of bigger city's going to ask for it, and a little bit of a bigger city, and eventually you've got, I don't know, Idaho looking for it. So
Apropos of that, let me
yes.
read this here, because Sheldon, you want to bring this graphic up here? Here's, because there's so much fresh water, you can imagine that 50 years from now, there might actually be a pipeline that brings water from the Great Lakes to Phoenix. I think that that's part of our future. This, according to Jay Famiglietti, who's a NASA jet propulsion scientist in Pasadena, California, who later said that he wasn't advocating building a pipeline from the Great Lakes, but rather that others may want to explore this in the future in order to help grow food in places where they have less water. Is this a crazy idea?
Yes.
It is a crazy idea.
No, but can I jump in on this?
Sure.
The Central Arizona project is also a crazy idea. And, you know, because I work around the world in arid environments, there's not a policy maker in an arid environment that doesn't look at Phoenix and Las Vegas and say, I want that. You know, so they believe that this is a viable kind of future. I lived in Botswana for 11 years. And on the Okavango River, the Namibian government at the time, in the early 2000s, have this dream to bring water from the Okavango down, and, you know, flood to bring water from the Congo River into the Okavango to flood the delta and to green the desert. And this sounds crazy, but in some cases, if there's enough money around, water can look like oil.
Well, that's what, forgive me here, I got a minute left and I want to give it to Linda, because I'm wondering, as one looks forward, whether or not we can imagine that the wars of the future are going to be fought between those who've got the water and those who want the water.
Absolutely, and we'll see the wars even within our own country of Canada, with our still strained relationship between our First Nations people and the Canadian government. Historically, we have never ceded any right or title to water. The American tribes of the states feel the same way, and with this compact agreement, there's a lot of work that needs to be done with the relationship with First Nations and Indigenous tribes. Our elders foresee wars in the future.
Our elders foresee wars in the future over water.
Over water. Right now, water is more expensive than gasoline.
And it's true, isn't it? Yeah. You want the last word on this? That is a frightening future.
It is, and I can't contradict an elder. But I could say that water is life, and there are some parts of the world where the only time nations come together peacefully is because they share the water and they need it for sustenance.
So that's hopeful.
That's my sense of hopefulness.
Why don't we leave it on that optimistic note? Can I thank all of our guests for coming in tonight from near, which Hamilton and Waterloo, I guess, would be. And where do you hang out?
Oh, Waterloo.
Waterloo also. Okay, so let's say thank you. You want to go to the other side of the table first? There's Gail Kranzberg from McMaster University and Larry Swatuk from University of Waterloo's Water Institute. And then from far, Frank, not so much you, from Waterloo, but Linda DeBossegay got in a car and drove 8 hours to be with us. Wow. Now that's impressive, all the way from Manitoulin Island. All right. It's great to have all of you around our table at TVO tonight. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks. It was a pleasure.
Thanks.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario, helping businesses stay on the right side of change with strategic thinking, insightful decisions, and business leadership. Are you on the right side of change? Ask an Ontario CPA.